When are we going to see cures for things like genetic diseases, cancers, HIV, cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, trisomy 23, which is a form of whatever you call that? It's like mental retardation. When are we going to see these things cured? Well, you have to get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is people believe in genetics. They believe in DNA. Even some of the wackos on YouTube that talk about, I don't know, higher dimensional forms of DNA. No. In our world, DNA is a form of sugar. Ribose, it's anything that ends in OSE is a sugar. Dextrose is a sugar. Glucose is a sugar. DNA is a form of sugar with different things added onto it. So, how do you fix in trisomy 23, it's like 3 copies of a chromosome instead of the normal 2. How deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go to get the answers to these things? Well, I want to get really far down the rabbit hole, but I'm going to lose you because you're stuck with, I don't know what you took in high school as far as biology, and the medicine you've learned is basically, well, you've bought Big Pharma hook, line, and sinker. And all they did is they just took their petrochemicals and then they started selling them to you in powdered form and said, well, this is going to make you feel better or cure this or cure that. If you ever had any problem at all, which is highly doubtful in the first place. But if there was, let's just say, for example, it is the nocebo effect. In other words, I am going to give you a sugar pill, and the sugar pill, which has no biochemical drug-like facility in your body, is going to trick your mind into healing itself. It is like a small child who has fallen and skinned its knee, goes to its mother and says, Mom, kiss it better, and then the child stops crying, feels better. That is what it is like. Blood thinners. Well, your blood is less thin after you've taken blood thinners, and you're more likely to bruise. Or is it because you've heard that this stuff makes your blood thinner and you're more likely to bruise that you're more likely to bruise? That is the case. Why is that? Because everything is awareness. Everything is consciousness. Everything is thought forms. There is no physical reality. So if I've got a thought form of a smoky quartz crystal, then I've got a smoky quartz crystal in the so-called physical. But this is simply a thought form. It is something in consciousness. And our senses are amazing and put this all together so that for our minds, we think this is a real thing. We don't call this a thought form, but it is. It is a thought form. So, what we have on planet Earth are a hell of a lot of bad thought forms. So if you want to cure all of these genetic diseases, well, I always thought what's going to happen is it's going to be some tricky dicky thing. It's going to be some tricky dicky thing like, oh, it's going to be the extraterrestrials are going to be announced, and they're going to be just like in, Star Trek. They're going to have transporter beams. And what's going to happen is you'll be transported in a transporter beam, and they'll just say, well, in the transporter beam, we've got your original blueprint for your hologram of your body without any contamination. So what we're going to do is when we reconstitute you, after we finish beaming you up, we're going to beam you down, but we're going to beam you back better than you were before with your original hologram. So your mind has got that information, and your mind is going to do it. Because your conscious mind can't grasp what your subconscious mind does. Your subconscious mind does things on autopilot. It's like when you go to learn how to ride a bicycle. Well, when you're first riding a bicycle, it's really difficult to balance yourself. But once you've learned how to ride a bike, you know how to ride a bike, and you don't think very much about riding a bike. You get to the point where you can ride a bike without even holding onto the handlebars. So how is that done? Well, some people will say it's your muscle memory, your cerebellum in a part of your brain. But in essence, it's your subconscious. Your subconscious runs your body to make your body ride a bike. So, all of these different ideas that have come and gone about curing things, it's like genetic engineering. So we're going to go and use restriction cleaving enzymes to cut your DNA and either insert a good gene or pull out a bad gene or repair a bad gene. And so you get this idea in your head. And lo and behold, we still don't have this technology, because when it's announced, then someone else comes along and says, oh, well, it's gonna lead to cancer, so you're not going to be able to do it. And it's going to be unsuccessful. How is this all going to be resolved? I'm thinking of an episode of the original Star Trek with Harry Mudd, who was a shyster, a con man, a snake oil salesman. And he had 3 women. And these women believed that if they ate certain jellies, like jujube jellies, that they were enhanced with some kind of, I don't know if they thought it was magic or it was some chemical in them that would make them look young and pretty. And Harry told them that the effect only will last for, 8 hours. And after 8 hours, if you don't eat another one of these candies, you're going to look old and ugly. And lo and behold, if you watch this episode on Star Trek, the original series, that's what happened to the ladies. And then as soon as they they were always chasing Harry. I need some more of these jujube candies because I feel like I'm getting old again. It's the power of the mind. It's the nocebo. You can look up Dr. Deepak Chopra, who will talk about placebo effect and nocebo effect. The thing is that our society is so deeply entrenched in believing in bullshit and bafflegab, because you were born into this society of bullshit and bafflegab. And from the time when before you can even remember being human, when you were an infant, you have been programmed by this society to believe in all kinds of stupid things. How do you wake up from this? Listening to me is not going to do it. It's not going to do it. What is going to do it? Well, I still think it's when the Pleiadians show up with their med beds and you go and you lie down and you see some kind of light and it convinces your consciousness that it's doing something. And then your consciousness is going, the subconscious is just going to fix you. I mean, there is no reason why human beings cannot produce vitamin C like other animals do. I'm sorry, someone is ringing right in the middle. This always happens. It's very annoying. Why do you call right in the middle of my video? Go away. Go away. Go away. It's just an annoying thing. I hate landlines, but this is not my house, so I can't get rid of it. Now, what was I saying? Well, I completely lost my train of thought. But what about your nerves and your brain? Don't these drugs work on your nerves and your brain? There is no nerves. There are no brains. There is simply a very good illusion, a holographic illusion that your consciousness picks up and says it's a body and it's got nerves and a brain in it. How am I going to prove this to you? Well, until you see some Tibetan master teleport himself from where you are to a block away where you can see him with binoculars, you probably won't believe me. Is that going to happen? Possibly. There are beings that are making magic happen. I have seen things that I cannot explain with high school physics. But, it's just my story, and I always say these are stories for boys and girls, the Twilight Zone or whatever. But I don't expect to see these great cures in the form of pills or, IVs, take an IV and it's going to cure you. We already know from the animal kingdom that things like small reptiles, if you cut off their tail, it will regrow. And even in the human, if you cut out part of a human liver, it will regenerate. But we don't see people whose legs are cut off at the knee regenerate their legs. Why not? I was going to say it's in the collective consciousness. It's something to do with the collective consciousness. A disbelief that can be done. But I don't think that's the case. I think there are beings that are running the show here on planet Earth, and they actually have control over what we see and do. They are more powerful than us. I don't know if it's technology or just some other spiritual gifts that they're given, but they have the ability to create illusions in our minds. And this whole world that we live in is like a matrix, like the Matrix movies, and these beings have created it. And where are we going to be when this illusion disappears? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But the illusion is going to disappear. I think. What does that mean? It's what I'm given to tell you. Where do I get my information from? These beings, the ones that run us like we're little puppets and things. Who are these beings? Some people say there are higher selves, there are bigger versions of us. I don't know. They're not giving it for me to tell you. But I'm putting this out there so that you've got something to go on. Maybe they will make me look foolish and something will be different. Probably, because people love to make me look foolish. And there's nothing that I hate more than being made a fool of. I'm just kidding. I really don't give a rat's ass. Yes, I do. In some ways, I still do care whether I'm right or wrong. But, internally, I've long since given up caring. All I care about is, well, staying comfortable. I'm as bad as everyone else, on planet Earth. In the end, I'm happy with homeostasis. In other words, as long as I've been fed and I've been peed and I've been pooped, and the room temperature is comfortable and I'm not terribly bored, I'm fairly happy. I'm Harry Weaver. Thanks for watching.